Welcome to the stream. Let me know your questions ahead of game week 18. And please let me know if the sound is okay, if the music is too loud, or if the microphone is too low. Please let me know in the comments. Thanks. Welcome to the stream. Let me know your questions ahead of game week 18. Please let me know if the sound is okay, if the music is too loud, or if the microphone is too low. Please let me know in the comments. Thanks. FPL FOMO, thanks for joining. There could be a slight quiet echo on the sound. FPL FOMO, thanks for joining. There could be a slight quiet echo on. Hopefully the sound is working. I'm not really sure what's causing the echo, but let me know if it's still there or if it's gone. Definitely an echo, not loud, but I can hear it. Echo gone, good to go, thanks. My transfers this game week, of course, I had to get rid of Saka as anyone else, and I sold Saka and Cunha to Bruno Fernandes and Alexander Isak. No, I may be a bit late to the Alexander Isak party, but hopefully he can continue delivering. I'm not expecting a hat-trick every week, of course, but hopefully Isak has more goals in him going forward. Bruno, the reason for picking Bruno Fernandes is actually the expected minutes and, of course, the fact that he is on penalties for Man United. So kind of boring Bruno Fernandes and Alexander Isak, but it made sense. I'm not too fond of picking one of the Liverpool midfielders because we know at some point they will start on the bench and probably come on for a one-pointer. So yeah, Salah is the only attacking Liverpool assets for me at the moment, but maybe if some of them gets injured, then we can pick from the Liverpool midfield. Saka to Ødegaard this week for me. No Arsenal or Liverpool defense. Could be a problem for me, yeah. There's like, there are a lot of managers at the moment with double and some with triple Arsenal attack. So if they get a clean sheet, you might see your rank take a small hit, especially if one of the defenders gets an attacking return as well, especially Saliba and of course Gabriel. But yeah, you're probably fine. What's the best two budget midfielder rotation? So at what price points are like from 5 to 6 million? Are we talking like Rogers, Semenyo category, or even cheaper, like 4.5 to 5.0? My favorite budget midfielders at the moment would definitely be Sar from Crystal Palace. Done really well recently. It's not that he has got some points. He has really good stats to back those performances up as well. And I think that 5.8 and below. Yeah, so definitely I would consider Sar. Just said that his performances could be backed up by really good stats as well, and the fixtures for Crystal Palace are really good going forward. If I had to pick another midfielder like for a rotation, I would just probably go Rodgers. No, that's maybe a bit boring because he has, I know that his ownership was higher a couple of weeks ago. It's still pretty high, so Rodgers is probably kind of a safe and boring option, but I think that he is a really good player, and at that price, he's still good value. So for me, it would be Rodgers and Sar from Crystal Palace. Merry Christmas. Thanks for joining in. Merry Christmas. Thanks for joining in. when it comes to those budget midfielders, I would much rather invest in Rodgers than going for someone like Enzo from Chelsea, even though he has done well recently. Got a couple of assists recently as well, but I do believe that the likes of Semenyo and Rodgers are still better options. Are there going to be any surprise benchings this game week? I think that's especially the ones who have invested in Liverpool players might get a surprise for their game against Leicester. I still think that Mo Salah will play. It's just something about his willingness to play and the fact that every time he gets subbed off, he looks so angry and upset. So I think that like he can choose if he wants to play or not. But I think that there's like 6 players fighting for 3 spots, and Mo Salah has one of them. So there will be a lot of disappointed. I think that probably Diaz will start as well, but that last spot in the Liverpool attack is really hard to predict. So especially some Jota owners might be a bit upset when we get the team news from Liverpool. What about Ahmad? I think that he is a good option as well. I'm not really convinced. He had like this spell earlier in the season as well, which made him attract some new owners, but I think that he is maybe a bit too inconsistent to be considered as a really good FPL option at the moment. But of course, at that price, he is definitely worth a punt. But I think that when he's in the form he's at the moment, of course, he's the most creative and attacking, the best, probably the best attacking player from Man United. But we saw a couple of months ago that he all of a sudden became more inconsistent. I think that Garnacho probably will get more minutes going forward as well. So we've seen that Xerxes, he can play as a number 10. Bruno maybe a bit more to the right, and Garnacho on the left. Højlund up top. They have a couple of options. But one thing that I actually considered was selling Saka to Ahmad, which would give me enough money to upgrade Cunha and get close to Erling Haaland. Would have been a bit tempting considering Man City's fixture, and we know that he will start and that he is on penalties. It's just that 14 point, is it 8, 14.9, it's a lot of money. So I still think that it's probably not worth it going Haaland, especially if you're not going to captain him. So that's the reason why I went for Bruno Fernandes and Alexander Isak, which are both nailed on and on penalties as well. So hopefully they can outscore Haaland for the next game weeks. Pick 2, Rodgers, Iwobi or Clifford. I will go the first two, Rodgers and Iwobi. Both really good options. Clifford is, in my opinion, a little bit too dependent on the penalties. But both Rodgers and Iwobi, they have decent attacking stats. We don't consider penalties as well, so of course the benefit for Clifford is that he is on penalties, but I do believe that he's probably a bit too reliant on them to deliver consistently. Is Phil Foden a good shout? He's definitely a decent punt. I'm not sure if he is a reliable long-term asset, so if you choose to replace Saka with Phil Foden, it's probably a transfer waiting to happen. So it's like if he does not perform in the next couple of game weeks, I think that he will see a drop in price, and don't really think that most of the managers bringing in Phil Foden at the moment will have that much patience with him. So it's like Phil Foden's second chance this season. A lot of managers brought him in when Saka was injured in game week 8 as well, or was it game week 9, around that time. So I still think that Phil Foden could do well, but I went for the safe option in Bruno Fernandes this time. So if you're still not set on your Saka replacements, of course Phil Foden could be a good shout, but I would much rather consider other options, such as probably Martinelli as well. We know that he will play more minutes, is more secured of starts. I read some comments from Arteta talking about Martinelli playing on the right as well, so he can play both on the left side and right now that Saka's gone, so he's probably more secure when it comes to minutes going forward. So he's probably a decent pick. The same goes for Maddison, Spurs. Of course, if you can stretch the Son as well. It's kind of annoying for me seeing that Cunha has not yet received his ban. He probably won't get a ban at this point. It's probably just handled internally, probably given a fine or something like that. But he's gone from my team. I think that he was a sell anyway because of fixtures. Of course, Wolves, they did well against Leicester last game week, but they won't play Leicester every week, and they have tougher fixture this game week against Man United. Merry Christmas, brother. Merry Christmas, Bryce. I went for Maddison, sadly, after the Saka price drop. Yeah, it is what it is. Like when it comes to price drops, sometimes we just have to take them because we need more information. I definitely think that information is more valuable than 0.1 million. So in most cases the information is worth it. But of course, when it comes to Saka, he was injured, we knew it all, and we we knew that we wouldn't get that much information on the press conferences ahead of game week 18 because it's Christmas and all, so it was probably worth going early this game week, but yeah, it is what it is. Merry Christmas. Sell Saka for Bruno or Luis Diaz. I'm kind of biased answering that question since my Saka replacement was Bruno Fernandes, so I sold Saka and Cunha to bring in Bruno Fernandes and Isak, so I definitely like Bruno Fernandes more than Luis Diaz. I actually think that Luis Diaz will start in game week 18, but I just feel that there will be a lot of rotation going forward when Liverpool, they have like 6-7 players fighting for 2 spots at the moment, if we consider that Mo Salah has that right wing nailed down, so there will be a lot of rotation now that everyone's fit. Finally brought in Isak. It's like when it comes to Isak, it has been so frustrating for me this season. I started with him, he didn't really deliver. He got a couple of assists and maybe 1 goal in the first like 5 to 6 game weeks, so not really not delivering in the start of the season, so it was kind of frustrating, and I took a couple of price drops on Isak as well, but I sold him, got him back on my game week 12 wildcard, had him for game week 12 and 13, and sold him when he actually started to score in game week 14, so yeah. The thing is that I have actually owned Isak for his best fixtures so far this season, and it was against tougher opponents in game week 14. Was it 15 and 16? And of course, a hat-trick against Ipswich in game week 17. So everyone who has asked me, both here and over at X, should I bring in Alexander Isak, it's been like, yeah. I've said he should be one of our priorities to bring in. I also considered, actually, especially if Cunha got a ban ahead of game week 17, I would probably have sold both Havertz and Cunha to bring in Wood and Isak, but since Cunha did not receive the ban, I just kept him ahead of game week 17, and yeah. I only owned Isaac for 2 games, 28 points, pure luck. So that's probably the same amount of points I've got from owning him from game week 1 to 6 and 12 to 14. So that was like 8 game weeks for me to reach those numbers. Besides Bruno, in your opinion, who's the best Saka replacement, excluding any Liverpool players? I still think that just getting in another midfielder from Arsenal probably could work out, especially if you only have one Arsenal player in your team. It probably makes sense to go. Martinelli would be my first choice, but Odegaard as well is a decent replacement, probably on penalties now that Saka is out, so both Martinelli and Odegaard are decent picks. I also like Maddison at Spurs. And if you have the funds, Son is always interesting. Only 5% owned, so Son is actually a differential, but yeah. In my team selection video, I talked about Diogo Jota as well, but since you're mentioning no Liverpool players, we'll probably say Sar from Crystal Palace. Martinelli is usually a minus risk, but I think that for the next game weeks he's probably more safe, because on the press conference Arteta talked about Martinelli, that he could play both on the left and right hand side, so he will probably get more minutes going forward. He also said that Gabriel Jesus can play on the right wing, and Havertz as well. So of course there is a slight risk that Martinelli could be benched, but I think he's pretty safe for the next game weeks now that Saka's injured. Would be a bit concerned about not having any Arsenal defenders. I just talked about earlier that some teams have 2 and even 3 Arsenal defenders, and when we consider the bookies' prediction for clean sheet this game week, it's pretty clear when it comes to their favorites. Arsenal, let's have a quick look. They have 57% chance of a clean sheet at home against Ipswich. So 57 for Arsenal, 51 for Liverpool, 45 for Man City. I have 0.5 in the bank, no free transfers, good midfield and forwards except from Welbeck. One, would you take a -4 to swap him for Raul, Joe Pedro or Evan Nilsson? I would bench Iwobi in this case. If you have no free transfers, I would definitely just bench Welbeck and play Iwobi for game week 18 and reassess. I'm not a fan of Joe Pedro at the moment. I'm considering selling him soon, so I would be probably tempted to bring in Chris Wood or Raul, but nah, I would just save the transfer and play Iwobi, to be honest. Triple captain this game week for Salah. If you don't play it now, do you keep it for the double game weeks? Yeah, it's definitely a decent game week for playing the triple captain, but I will just save it and keep the chip for double game week. We know that Liverpool probably will have a double game week pretty soon when it comes to their game against Everton, which will probably be rescheduled for game week 24 or 25. So yeah, I'll probably just wait for a double game week. put up some stats from my video when it comes to the captain selection. So these are the stats for Leicester the last 4 game weeks. Not really convincing, kept 0 clean sheets, conceded 11 goals, 14 big chances conceded. Worst in the league when it comes to shots on target, it's 32, and they also have an expected goals conceded of 10.83, so not really convincing stats from Leicester, so I think that there are no reason to go for a differential captain in game week 18. Just play it safe and captain Mo Salah. Thanks in game week 19. If Joao Pedro has no returns and no good news on Welbeck injury, would you swap Welbeck for Raul or for Evan Nilsson, or continue benching him until mid-January game week 21? So it kind of depends on the performances of Evan Nilsson and Raul. So when it comes to Fulham and especially Raul, they have really good fixtures coming up, so I see the temptation in going for Fulham players, but when it comes to Raul, I just think that he is kind of a minute's risk. He will probably start some games on the bench and they will start Muniz, and if Raul starts, we can always see those substitutions around the hour mark, which is not good. It really limits the appeal of a player when you know that he will always be one of the early subs. And this, I talked about Martinelli some minutes ago, and this applies to him as well. He's always like one of the first players to get hooked up. And I think that the same is for Raul Jimenez, especially now that Muniz is fit. So and Joao Pedro, he's actually one of the most sold players ahead of game week 18. Let's have a quick look. Isak, Luis Diaz, the most transferred in. Saka, of course, over 2 million transfers out. That's huge. Haaland, and we have Joao Pedro after Haaland, so close to 300 transfers out for Joao Pedro. I think Welbeck is not on the graphics on the screen, but I think that Welbeck is next after Joao Pedro, so really close to his numbers. Probably have exceeded 300,000 as well, so like the fixtures for Brighton has been, they have had really good fixtures the last month, but going forward they will have tougher opponents, so it's probably a good strategy to have an exit plan for both Welbeck, of course, because of the injury, but also João Pedro. It's really hard to pick his replacement, but you're mentioning Evan Nilsson and Raul, but my favorite would actually be Chris Wood if you don't have him already. If in game week 24 or 25 when Liverpool has a double game week, is it more efficient to play double, triple captain or assistant manager JP? I think that definitely if we get the double game week in 25, let's have a quick look. I just read something about Liverpool's fixture in 25. If Liverpool get a double game week in game week 25, they will have a game at Anfield against Wolves, and of course the postponed game against Everton at Goodison. So I think that game week 25 would be a really good game week for the triple captaincy. I think that the managership is not that dependent on good fixtures, so I would definitely use the triple captain in the game week where it looks like the team you're triple captaining your player from has the best fixtures. So at the moment, game week 25 looks like it would be a really good week to triple captain. On Liverpool or Arsenal or one of the other best teams, then it's probably okay to use it in 25. Will probably secure some points, but I think that the triple captain have more upside when the fixtures are that good as in game week or double game week 25. So top three anytime goal scorers: Salah, his first 65%, Haaland with 61, and actually Darwin Núñez is third with 51%. Not sure if Darwin even will start in game week 18, but bookies predictions, they are always like putting their odds like if the player is starting, of course. So Darwin Núñez is always high on the list due to being Liverpool's number 9. So when he starts, he's playing up front for Liverpool, and of course with the fixture in game week 18, it makes sense to give him good odds, of course, for scoring, but I wouldn't necessarily bring in Darwin Núñez because he's third on the bookies prediction list. We know that Gakpo can play up top, Jota as well, of course, so Darwin would not be my preferred transfer in. João Pedro, one of the most sold players, same goes for Haaland, so there are many managers selling their forwards. Of course, Alexander Isak, he has over 1 million transfers in this game week, and Jesus 500,000 at the moment. I'm not sure when it comes to Jesus. Of course, we know that he, from earlier seasons, that he is a decent player, but before the game against Crystal Palace, he hasn't scored for like 9-10 months, something like that. So I would like to see a bit more from Jesus, but if he looks to be nailed as their number 9 and Havertz will continue playing in midfield, then he's probably worth a punt at some point. Do you think Tosin from Chelsea is attractive defender 4.2? Would you rather bring Fulham 4.2 defender? My first thought is that Fulham probably is the better option. I'm not sure about how nailed on Tosin really is for Chelsea. I'll have a quick look on their injury list. Fofana, he is out. Hamstring injury. Badashil, unknown return date for him as well. And Reece James, unknown. So they have a couple of injuries. When I go into Tosin's history, it kind of screams like that he is a replacement. So he's playing a couple of games and then he sits out for 5 to 6 game weeks, then play a couple of games again before he gets another spell on the bench. So I would like to see more from him before considering him as an FPL option, to be honest. So he started in game week 8, but then he was benched for game week 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Started in game week 14, benched in game week 15, and now he's had 2 starts in a row, but I would like to see more starts from him before transferring him in. So I would definitely go for a Fulham defender with those good fixtures coming up. I think that at 4.2 from Fulham, the most exciting option is probably Castani, but if you want to have a long-term option, I would pick Anderson. Know that he did not play in game week 17 and that he has been injured, but at some point he will probably start playing games, and he is one of the best center backs in the league when it comes to attacking threats from set pieces. So Anderson is probably the best option long term, and Castani for the next 2 months. I think Kenny Tete was out for 8 to 10 weeks, so Castagne is probably good to go and will start most games in the next couple of months. So if you want to cover the Chelsea defense, I would probably just go for Colville if you want a defender, or of course Sanchez, the goalkeeper, covers their defense as well. I think that it's probably a good idea to double up on the Chelsea defense as well, but I wouldn't necessarily make that as my priority. But so which defender are you considering selling? Is it Ait Nouri or someone around that price? My preferred option would definitely be Munoz from Crystal Palace if I were to bring in a new defender for game week 18. That would be my first choice. FOMO talking about Cunha, who's going to Hull in game week 18. For some reason, your stream's audio breaks every 5 for 2. Every 5 for 2 is like every 5th or every 5th second. Breaks every 5 for 2. I'm not really an audio expert, so I'm really working on trying to find the best solution. So I've actually bought a new microphone, and I had some troubles making it work with the new microphone. So I have this app called Unify linked up. There's an app on my computer, so the sound from the microphone is running through Unify and then into OBS, which is the platform I'm streaming this from. So every 5 seconds for 2 seconds, I'm going to disconnect and get back again. Stream working okay for me. Thanks for letting me know, FOMO. Just feel that probably something wrong when it comes to the indicator on my microphone is like going up and down like this. I'm not sure if that's normal, but I'll have a listen to the stream afterwards when it's uploaded. So like when I have those streams, it takes like 12 hours or something like that, and then the stream gets uploaded to YouTube before I can actually listen to the stream myself. So probably the best thing for me was to like buy some decent headphones and listen to the stream at the same time. I know that some of the top streamers are like using headphones plugged in to monitor their sound, but I'll get there one day. It's now working fine. Yeah, perfect. Really, really nice to hear, because I have had no like tips on what to do for you, so and I would have like a massive job trying to figure it out. I know that at the start of the stream, FPL FOMO, he told me that there was some kind of echo, so yeah, hopefully the stream is working fine and that the sound is okay. So how did game week 17 go for you guys? I actually had a nice green arrow in game week 17, which took me from around 1.6 million to 1.4, so 250k green arrow for me in game week 17. So that was a good game week. Of course, Salah captain, but I also got returns from Cunha, which helped a lot. Bowen assists. So a decent game week overall. So hopefully I can get a couple of green arrows in the next game weeks as well. So hopefully I can be within the 1 million in game week 20. 91 points last week, 120k to 80k. Yeah, that's nice. Good positions to be in at the moment. I actually remember that one of my best seasons when I'm not sure if it was the 157 rank or the 900 rank. I remember being 100k at Christmas. So remember that that was my goal, to be within 100k. It must have been game week 18 or 19. It would be fine. It would be nice if you can tell us which would be your top 5 defenders under 4.7 and your top midfielders under 5.8. So when it comes to defenders, I think that there are a lot of good options at the moment. It's not like I have a complete list at the moment, but from the top of my head, you mentioned Chelsea defenders, and Colville is around that price. So if you want to cover the Chelsea defense, I think that he is perfectly fine to transfer in. My favorite at the moment is Munoz from Crystal Palace. He looks so attacking every time Crystal Palace goes forward, so I think that he can get clean sheets and attacking returns going forward. So that's Colville and Munoz. Of course, Robinson from Fulham, probably the best option, even though he's a little bit more expensive than the likes of Anderson and of course Castani, but he is probably the safest option. So we go Robinson as well, one of the cheaper Fulham defenders. I still like Kirkis from Bournemouth. They are still showing some good defensive form, and I would probably go Milenkovic from Nottingham Forest as my 5th pick in defense. Scored 2 goals in the last 5 game weeks. Big threat at attacking set pieces, and actually think that Nottingham Forest defense is a bit underrated, so yeah. Mykolenko as well, really good option. Everton with, is it like 5 clean sheets in their last 6 games or something like that. So when we consider that Everton have Sean Dyche as their manager, it's not that surprising to see this good defensive form, but I started the season with Mykolenko and saw his price drop from 4.5 to 4.2. I sold him on my game week 12 wildcard. And after this, when their fixtures actually have been a bit tough recently, they have actually started to just keeping clean sheets for fun. So yeah, this has been one of those seasons for me when it comes to those 50-50 decisions. I considered selling keeping Mykolenko as well, but I ended up selling him, and Everton have really done well ever since. So yeah, Mykolenko as well could be added to the list. I'm playing Mykolenko this week at Man City, but it's probably one of those picks that Mykolenko, he can get minus because City could smash them 4-0 like Man United did against Everton, but at the same time he can keep a clean sheet, maybe an attacking return, bonus points, you can see double digits, so it's not the worst option playing Mykolenko considering Man City's form, but yeah. If I had Mykolenko in my team, I would probably not play him ahead of Hall, Gabriel, or Kirkis. You would probably not play ahead of Masraoui or Anderson either, to be honest. So it depends on a team. I wouldn't like take. I wouldn't use a transfer or take a hit to sell Mykolenko. Would just play him against Man City in game week 18. I don't have much choice this week. Yeah, I figured that you were kind of forced to play him, but it might not be the worst option, as mentioned. So your top 5 midfielders under 5.8. Same as with the defenders. I might forget someone because I haven't really prepared a list, a top 5 list for midfielders priced below 5.8, but in my team selection video, I'm talking about Sar, so of course I have to mention him. Really good attacking stats together with returns recently, and Crystal Palace have good fixtures. So actually he has some history from the Premier League, playing for Wolves a couple of seasons ago, so he is a really good player, has been injured a lot, but now he's in really good form, so he's probably a really good pick in that price category. Of course, Rodgers is still there, really good player, great performance in game week 17 against Man City. Semenyo as well, I know that he has been one of the options that been talked about all season. Really good underlying stats, but hasn't really delivered points. But he got a goal in game week 17, and maybe that's one of the signs of that Semenyo could do really well. Maybe it just needs a little bit more confidence in front of goal. So Semenyo is one of the best options still, in my opinion. Ahmad, of course, good budget enabler. Will probably start most games for Man United going forward, but could see some games on the bench as well, of course, if Amorim starts to play Garnacho and trust him more going forward. So I know that one of the most popular picks in when it comes to budget midfielders is Enzo Fernandez, but he will be last on this list, and I prefer all the other options that I just mentioned. I would much rather have Palmer, Jackson, and Chelsea defender, Colville, or even Sanchez, as I have my goalkeeper, before picking Enzo Fernandez. In this game week, do you think Maresca may rotate Jackson and or Sancho? I think that probably Jackson will start. Sancho is really hard to predict. We know that they have a lot of options going forward. Actually, it seems like Maresca likes João Pedro, and he's also talked about playing João Pedro and Cole Palmer together, so this would probably mean that Jackson could start on the bench. Of course, João Pedro could play as number 10. They could move Cole Palmer to the right and play Jackson up front, but they have a lot of options and there will be rotation, so the only option for me at the moment is actually to have Cole Palmer. The same goes for Liverpool. I know that a lot have gone for Diaz as their Saka replacement. Luis Diaz is one of the most transferred in midfielders ahead of game week 18. Let's have a quick look at his numbers. So Luis Diaz, he is second. So yeah, I collected those numbers like 60 minutes ago, and then he had 556 transfers in, so he's probably above 600 at the moment. Joao Felix, yeah, I know that it feels feel old talking about Joao Felix, but he's there and he is getting minutes from Maresca. Let's see, last time he started was in game week 14 against Southampton, so maybe Maresca is playing Joao Felix in those easier fixtures, but he started in game week 14 and played 90 minutes. And has been a bit ill, not played in the last 2 game weeks, but it's not flagged or anything in FPL at the moment, so I would assume that he is ready to play. And Kunku as well. One of the biggest talking points in August before game week 1, Kunku, that was rumored to be a starter for Chelsea. It was kind of funny because he actually started most of their friendlies, but when the season started, he all of a sudden he was out in the cold. So he'll probably get some minutes as well. Neto, Sancho, they have Madueke playing on the right. So there are a lot of options at the moment over at Chelsea. At some point, they will probably give some minutes to their new striker as well. Gui, not sure how to pronounce that. Mark Gui. Evening TFS, I brought in Diaz for Saka and Isak for Strand Larsen. So if you were able to downgrade Saka to Diaz and upgrade Strand Larsen to Isak, I really like those options. I've talked about the Liverpool midfield, just talked about Chelsea attack. I'm not too sure about their expected minutes going forward. So many options in both the Liverpool and the Chelsea attack, but Luis Diaz, if he starts, he has the potential to do very well, and I like Isak nailed on and on penalties for Newcastle. So decent transfers. I sold Saka to bring in Bruno Fernandes, and I sold Cunha to Alexander Isak myself. So hopefully that will work out going forward. I know that it feels like a bit point chasing getting Isak after his recent spell. I have a feeling like we're late to the party bringing in Alexander Isak for game week 18, but hopefully I'm not like expecting him to score hat-tricks going forward, but hopefully he can get a couple of goals, some bonus points, assists, that he will like get close to double digits. So not expecting 17 points every game week, but that he can consistently deliver like 7 to 10 points in the next 5 game weeks. That will be good enough. And Kunku started game week 1 against City, and then he was not a good alternative. Yeah, that's the thing, that he has actually done pretty well on Thursdays playing in Europe. So I think that he probably deserves some more minutes in the Premier League as well. So at some point he will probably get a start. So when we consider the schedule at the moment, then that it's really congested, fixtures are coming thick and fast, it's probably not crazy to think that Nkunku could get a start at some point. So to summarize, my captain in game week 18 will be Mo Salah. No reason to try to be different or take a punt in game week 18. The fixture is there for Liverpool. and the form is there for Salah, so I like taking a punt, but in game week 18 I will just go for Mo Salah. My transfers this game week was to sell Saka. I also sold Cunha, so he's not received a ban yet, so I think that Cunha will play in game week 18, but he's out of my team together with Saka, and the players I brought in was Bruno Fernandes and Alexander Isak. Hopefully this team can give me a new green arrow. My thought is that Nkunku will play instead of Jackson in game week 18 or not. Yeah, could very well happen. The thing is that Cole Palmer could play on the right, which opens up a fair few opportunities for Chelsea, to be honest. They could just bench Madueke, shift Palmer to the right, and they can play Nkunku as their number 10 as well. But then again, Jackson could be number 9. They could potentially give a start to Mark Gui as well. So I think that at the moment it's really hard to predict when it comes to expected lineups for Chelsea and Liverpool. I've actually visited some fan forums, and it's not like there are any clear answers on who is going to start in their attacks. So I think it's probably a bit guesswork at the moment. Of course, there have been a lot of talk about Liverpool starting 11 ahead of game week 18 due to the Saka injury and the need for a replacement. But I think that Diaz is perfectly fine replacement. Will probably get a game on the bench in the next few game weeks, but the potential is there, so he could haul and get like 20 points in a game because he's really explosive as well. I think that both probably Jota and Diaz are decent punts when it comes to Saka replacements. So I've gone for the probably a bit boring, but at the same time solid options with Bruno Fernandes and Alexander Isak. So I have to go, but thanks all for joining in. Thanks for all the questions and interactions. Hopefully you enjoyed the stream, and if you want to join in next time, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Merry Christmas to everyone who celebrates, and best of luck in game week 18. Hopefully I'll see you next time.